What if we built a character who could only make one single attack per turn? We intentionally avoided extra attack, things that would give us a bonus action attack, etc. Instead, we just lean in to the single attack, finding ways to pile a bunch of damage onto that one hit in an attempt to just make a big, powerful blow every turn. Would our damage be potent or paltry? The answer might actually surprise you. It definitely surprised me. Welcome to D4, where today you only get one shot. Hey everybody, so here at D4, that stands for D&D Deep Dive, by the way, the 4 Ds, in case you didn't know, I take a deep dive into character builds for my favorite role-playing games. I like to crunch numbers about them, I like to theory craft about them, not so that I can tell you the right way or the best way to play a character, but to explore one potential way to build something in the hopes of creating a character that is both fun but also powerful to play. So if you also enjoy creating characters for your favorite role-playing games, or if you enjoy theory crafting, or if you're just looking for tips or ideas on how to build something that you're thinking about playing, then welcome home. This is where you belong, and I'm really glad you're here. So thanks for watching. My name's Colby. So last week, in my Hammer of the Divine build, right up there, I went on a bit of a rant about how the hardest hitting builds in D&D tend to follow the formula of find ways to add damage to every attack and then make lots of attacks, and how I wish that we could get more stuff in the game that makes one attack per turn viable. Anyways, the minute I finished that video, I naturally started working on a build that did, well, exactly that. A character who only makes one attack on their turn. I wanted to know, if we limited ourselves to a single attack and found lots of ways to just pile on damage to a single hit, just how far behind would we really be? And would it be as bad as I feared? In case you didn't know, I am a huge fan of doing builds like this, right? Picking a character concept that's going to limit what my character might be capable of doing, and then trying to kind of optimize within those artificial restraints. And this isn't even the first time that I've played with the just one hit idea. One of my favorite concept first builds that I did for the 2014 rules was the one hit wonder, right up there. And I've had one hit wonder 2.0 on my to-do list ever since 5.5 came out. That said, I thought for today's build, it might be really fun to add an additional little restriction to the idea in the name of character concept. Because, you see, there was a big change to the 2024 rules that I've been dying to play with, and it has to do with Divine Smite. Not only does Divine Smite now require your bonus action, and using it is considered casting a spell now too, boo. But they threw me a little bone in 2024 and decided that Divine Smite, and indeed all of the Smite spells, could affect unarmed strikes now too. It used to be just melee weapon attacks only, right? And boy, have I always loved the idea of having a divine power infused in a character's body that can be manifest through their body, but maybe only through their body, you know? Like an offensive lay on hands. I don't know, it just feels unique and cool. But of course, what character would we want to be divinely punching or kicking with? Mixing monk and paladin is still nigh impossible thanks to needing a 13 in 4 different ability scores, right? None of which are constitution. But then Wizards of the Coast went and gave us the Dance Bard. And suddenly, the stars aligned. And now, I will admit, my first glance at the officially released version of the Dance Bard, not the much stronger UA version, right, left me feeling like it was pretty lackluster. No extra attack, no fighting styles, no weapon masteries. It felt a little high on concept, but low on mechanics to me. Though I did, I think, do a decent job of building around it a few months ago, right up there. But if you're building a character who can only make one attack on their turn anyways, and you want them to be making the hardest hitting unarmed strike they possibly can, it's pretty much the perfect subclass. That said, I think there's a non-magic using one-hit puncher build that could be fun and fairly competitive numbers-wise for those who want to go a more martial, barbarian monk fighter route, and I will briefly go over what I think that might look like in the final thoughts if you're interested, so be sure and stay tuned until the end to check it out. Okay, ready to dive in? I proudly present D&D Build number 231, Fist of Smiting, Feet of Flames. Hold me closer, smiting dancer. The One Punch Wonder. Hit me, baby, one time. The Alpha Striker. Power word, fist. I am not throwing away my shot. Who knew there were going to be so many great music tie-ins for this one? Eminem, right? Anyways, thanks as always to everyone in the Discord server for all the great suggestions, but I think we all knew that nothing was going to compete with One Punch Man. But to be clear, I'm not trying here to actually recreate the famed character from the anime. That's not usually my thing, right? And I don't actually know the anime that well, but I mean, come on. I don't think I could name this anything else, could I? Huge thanks to my good friend Randall Hampton for the fantastic artwork that he put together for the build this week. He does this every week. If you'd be interested in following him to check out the other stuff that he does, or to even try and commission him to create some art for your character or your entire party, I will put links in the video description, as always, on how to do so. Magic Spoon time. I am super excited to have Magic Spoon sponsoring the video today because I just got done with a workout. I need to get some protein in me, and this is a perfect excuse to do exactly that. You know, it's funny because I've had several friends and family who have discovered that Magic Spoon sometimes sponsors my videos, and recently they've either been like, I've been wanting to try that, or, oh man, I love that stuff. So my wife and I have actually decided to just give boxes away as neighbor and family gifts this year for Christmas. Anyways, hopefully you know by now that Magic Spoon makes great tasting cereal with fantastic ability scores. Each serving has 13 to 14 grams of protein, 0 grams of sugar, and 4 to 5 grams of net carbs. Very min-maxed. I even sent Knox, my son, off to college last month with a few boxes because he's trying to increase his protein intake too. But you know what I love even more than their regular cereal, though I do love it? Their granola. I love to mix the two together, like I've done today. Little chocolate cereal with a little peanut butter granola. Perfect mix. I often will just put the granola like into yogurt to add a little crunch and heartiness and protein because with the granola you get 13 grams of protein per serving and 0 added sugar. And then of course there's the treat bars, which I'm out of as usual because my wife and daughters just gobble them up. They are a really great on-the-go option. 11 to 12 grams of protein, a single gram of sugar, 1 to 2 net grams of carbs. Light and yummy and surprisingly satiating. So, if you haven't tried any or all of these Magic Spoon products, I'd recommend that you check them out. Go to the link that I've got in the pinned comment and the video description, or scan the QR code that's right up there if you would, so they know that I sent you. You can also find them at most grocery stores and on Amazon too. But if you buy from my link and use the code D4 at checkout, you'll save $5 off your order. So you should do that. All right, big thanks to Magic Spoon for sponsoring. I really appreciate your support and all of your products. Okay? Let's get back to the build. All right, at level 1, for our starting class. I mean, we need at least one level of Paladin on this character for smiting purposes, right? And in that case, it's worth considering starting Paladin 1, I think, so that we can have armor, shield, and weapon proficiency, which I think I would make use of here in the first few levels, at least, to help us out until we can get to Bard 3. As for our species, I'm going to go Goliath, Fire Giant, as I so often do in 5.5. It's definitely not a must-have, but especially on a character who's only going to be making one single attack, I kind of feel like doing everything we can to make that attack hit as hard as possible is pretty paramount, and Goliath gives us that if we take the Fire Ancestry. Or, sure, the Frost Giant Ancestry if you want, mix it up a bit. It does a d8 of damage instead of a d10, practically the same, but then it also slows them, which is cool. Cool. Frost Giant. Get it. That said, we will have a bit of a fire theme going on this character, so I think I'll assume fire. For our background, I'm going to say take an old one and or a custom one if you can or want to, but if not, Wayfarer should work just fine for what we need. It gives us the origin feat that we want, first up, which is Lucky. I love the Lucky origin feat since it lets us just have advantage on any D20 test that we want, proficiency bonus times per day. But admittedly, this is not always super strong on characters who make lots of attacks and need advantage on all of them, unless you have a way to keep triggering advantage afterwards, right? Which we do often find. But on a build that only makes a single attack on their turn, I feel like it's a really easy way to just get it when we need it. That said, If a familiar can give you advantage fairly regularly at your table, and they can usually stay safe, right? I might prefer getting Magic Initiate Wizard here instead for the additional spells, and then so that we could get Find Familiar and thus enjoy advantage, on our first attack on our turn. As for our starting ability scores, I'm assuming that we go point by as always and say let's take a 15 Dexterity and a +2 there, a 13 Charisma and a +1, a 14 Constitution, and then a 13 Strength, which we need to multi-class with Paladin. Otherwise, I'd get a better Charisma modifier if I could, right? It's a bit of a bummer, but well. For starting equipment, I'm going to say let's grab some scale mail, a shield, and then a rapier or a short sword in a scimitar. We'll really only use all of this for the first few levels, but having them will make life a lot easier until we get to character level 4. Solid armor class, decent damage. A rapier and a shield would be better AC, right? But you might prefer a short sword and a scimitar while you wait for your latent body-infused divine power to manifest itself. But yeah, those would be our best weapon options, I think, as a dexterity-based character, since, remember, at Paladin 1, we get weapon masteries. And yeah, I'd either grab the rapier and something else so that we could use a shield and enjoy the Vex Mastery, which says that if we hit with the weapon our next attack made against that enemy has advantage, potentially saving us some luck points early on when we don't have many of them to spare, right? Or I would go with a short sword and a scimitar so we could get Vex and Nick letting us make an attack with that scimitar as part of our action instead of our bonus action, thus enjoying 2 attacks right at level 1, which is pretty great. At Pally 1, we also get Lay on Hands so that we can use our bonus action and a touch to heal for 1 hit point per Lay on Hands point we spend. We get 5 per Paladin level. Or if we wanted to use all 5 of them to cure poison, we could do that too. A nice little emergency triage option. As for the spells that we get at Paladin 1 now, remember, you only get 2 Paladin spells at this level. And so I'm going to say let's take Divine Smite for now, and then probably change that to Searing Smite once we got to 2nd level spell slots in a bit, which you can do just when you take a long rest with Paladin spells, right? Both of these Smite spells are cast as a bonus action when you hit with a melee weapon or, yes, an unarmed strike. Now, Divine Smite does 2d8 of radiant damage plus 1d8 more for every level you upcast it, while Searing Smite does 1d6 now and 1d6 on the enemy's turn, after which they can make a Constitution save to try and end that burning condition. So the guaranteed damage is slightly less at level 1, right? 2d6, but after that, when we're upcasting at 2nd level and higher, it does get better with Searing Smite. So I'm going to assume that we will go that route when I crunch numbers, and yeah, I'll assume that it only ticks 1 time, though we could potentially get even more damage out of the spell if they fail that Constitution save, right? And of course, stay alive for another round for it to tick on them again, right? But beyond that, I would want to grab the Bless spell here. It is such a fantastic use of our concentration. It gives 3 party members, more if we upcast it, an extra d4 on all of their attacks and saves. The number of times this will turn a failure into a success makes it so dang good. Speaking of so dang good, allow me, if you would, to give a shout out to my channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing. I could not do what I do without you. Thank you for your support. If you're not a member or a patron, I'd love it if you'd consider becoming one. There's a little button down there. It says join, or, in the video description, you can find a link to my Patreon. It'll tell you there about the perks that are available if you want to support me in this way. And I give all of my channel perks to all of my members and patrons who sign up just at the silver level or higher. It's $2 a month. I just ask you that you pay what you feel it's worth and what you think you can afford. Those perks include access to the library of write-ups that I do for all of my builds, access to the community Discord server, and access to the monthly live Q&A hangout sessions that we have. It's a fantastic community to be a part of, but if you don't feel like you can support in this way, or you don't want to, that's fine. Liking, watching, subscribing, commenting, sharing with your friends, these are all great ways to support the channel too, so thanks. Now, at level 2, it is time to start taking bard levels, I think, and we will be here for a while, maybe even the rest of our career. So yeah, when we first meet our champion, they are perhaps enrolled in divinity school, or maybe law school, or an officer training program, developing martial prowess and honing their connection to higher ideals and the power that comes from adhering to them. But maybe they've realized now that there was just too much structure in their chosen vocation. There was an artist inside them longing to be expressed. Maybe the circus came to town, or a riveting dance troupe. Maybe they grew up as part of a troupe and rebelled against their parents by enrolling in divinity school before realizing that this wasn't for them after all. I'll show you guys, becomes a priest. Parents, how dare you? Or sure, maybe the deity that you worship is one of art or beauty or dance, like Ilustri or something, right? And becoming a dance bard is simply part of your worship. Whatever your reasons, yes, we're taking bard levels now. So, as a bard 1, we first up get bardic inspiration, which is just such a fantastic, universally useful support feature, letting you a charisma modifier times per day, spend a bonus action to give a bardic inspiration die, which is a d6 for now, to an ally that they can use in the next hour to add to any failed d20 test, potentially turning that failure into a success. And I guess I should have said this up front maybe. Much like last week's War Cleric, I think this character will make a really solid support character. They'll be able to heal, buff, debuff, even control if they want, all while making their one potent attack every turn, if they want. It's probably the thing that I love most about this build, being able to do multiple things fairly well, and in our case even, often at the same time. We then get first level bard spells and cantrips here, and I want them all. Vicious Mockery for a little damage and a debuff, while hurling an insult is just perfection. Bane is a great way to subtract a d4 from enemies' attacks and saving throws. Command can be some nice control, same with Sleep or Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Cure Wounds and or Healing Word are both great heal spells. Dissonant Whispers is nice damage and control. Fairy Fire can give your whole party advantage on attacks against multiple enemies. And of course, there's Silvery Barbs. Beware the mob. I know, that spell makes some of you really mad. And you know what you should do about it? You should buy a t-shirt that says that you are a proud member of the Silvery Barbs mob, so that people just know without even having to ask that they shouldn't use that spell in your presence. Find that t-shirt available in my merch store. It's linked in the video description. Okay, at level 3, we would be a bard 2. That means we get expertise so that we can double our proficiency bonus in 2 skills that we're proficient in. And I'm going to say go ahead and PYF here, pick your favorites, but know that in addition to a solid support character, this build could also make a pretty great party face. They've got a decent charisma, right? So sure, taking expertise and perception is never a bad idea, but I might want to go persuasion instead, and maybe deception or intimidation, or sure, performance. Come on. We gotta go performance. The people must be entertained. We also get Jack of all trades here. That lets us add half of our proficiency bonus to any skill check where we are not already adding our proficiency bonus. At level 4, we would be a bard 3, and that means we get our bard subclass. And as I've said, yes, we're going College of Dance. It is just so perfect for what we are trying to do with this concept today. Dance bards only get 1 feature at this level, but it's kind of a 4-in-1. It's dazzling footwork, and we unfortunately only get all of these benefits if we lose our armor and our shield. So as the fire within us starts to manifest, it burns hot. We gotta lose the metal. Plus, it's way too cumbersome. Our movement must not be impeded. As a result, though, we get advantage on any performance check made that involves dancing. Our armor class equals 10 plus our dexterity plus our charisma. That's a decent 15 for now, but it will only get better. We can use dexterity instead of strength for our unarmed strikes, just like monks, and the damage from our unarmed strike is equal to our bardic inspiration die. Nice. Finally, we're told that when we use our bardic inspiration, whether as part of an action, a bonus action, or a reaction, we can make an unarmed strike at the same time, which is nice. We only need 1. We get second level spells here as well, and again, I kind of want them all. Aid to heal and raise the max hit points of party members, Lesser Restoration to cure some nasty conditions, Heat Metal to put some damage on enemies. It might be fun to flavor that spell, actually, like the fire that burns in our soul is like contagious. Maybe your Searing Smite lights even the bad guy's armor on fire. Hold Person, fantastic for control and damage, since paralyzed humanoids would receive automatic critical hits. Invisibility is always handy. Mirror Image is great for defense. PYF. At level 5, we would be a bard 4, and that means we get our first general feat, and I'm gonna say let's take Charger, but there's a chance that I overuse this feat. It's not like the greatest thing in the world, honestly, but once again, if we only have 1 hit, Don't fault me for trying to add damage to that one hit as often as I can. We want to bump our dexterity to 18 with a half feat anyways, and Charger lets us do that, plus add a d8 of damage if we move in a straight line for 10 feet before hitting. And I mean, I think it works thematically too, right? We're leaping and pirouetting our way towards enemies all the time, surely. Or, I mean, sure, it could be more menacing than leaps and pirouettes. A stomping Russian folk dance like, dancer, or a capoeira-looking movement. There are lots of kinds of dance to draw inspiration from here. But having the extra movement and damage from Charger makes sense for all of them, I think. And yeah, we're also told with this feat, when we dash, we get an extra 10 feet of speed, which will help us when we really need to get somewhere. Oh, and don't forget, we can also push an enemy 10 feet away instead of do extra damage with that charge attack. No save, they just can't be more than one size larger than us. So that'll be really nice if you're in a position where moving them 10 feet will be good. At level 6, we would be a Bard 5, and that means we get Font of Inspiration, which resets our use of Bardic Inspiration on a short rest instead of a long rest, which is really great. Those Inspiration dice become D8s at this level too, by the way, which is awesome. And then we get 3rd level spells, and these are the best. Catnap for a 10-minute short rest, Dispel Magic to get rid of nasty spell effects, Tiny Hut for some nice protection when you need a safe room, right? But I think I'd probably be focusing on the wonderful Fear, Hypnotic Pattern, and Slow above all here. Slow is my favorite of the 3, even though it doesn't hard shut down enemies like the other 2. It can't be ignored when they have Charm and Fear immunity, which is great. And I don't know, I kind of like letting enemies stay in the fight, but just at a much reduced rate of effectiveness, you know? Lowered armor class, move speed, dexterity saves, no reaction, fewer actions and attacks, they might fail spells, and there's no risk hitting allies either with the spell. Just 6 enemies of your choice in a 40-foot cube, right? It's so good. Anyways, at level 6, it's time for our first damage report. Here's what I would hope combat would look like for us at this point. On round 1, we would want to get a concentration spell going. I'm going to assume for number crunching purposes that we're casting Bless. Not because it's the most powerful necessarily, but it is the easiest thing to do for number crunching purposes. It's just going to add a d4 to all of our attacks and our allies and their saves, right? It's so good, and it can't fail. There's no saving throw against this, right? In game, I might rather cast Slow. Depending on what I'm fighting, it would likely do even more for your party, but enemies might make their save against it too, or they might be spread out in a way that you would only be able to hit a couple of them. To be fair, lowering an enemy's armor class by 2 would do about the same thing for our damage as increasing our hit chance by a d4, but yeah, they've got a chance to save against it, right? So Bless is just a little cleaner. Feel free to cast something else if you want. Anyways, after casting Bless on round 1, I would charge an enemy, give an ally a Bardic Inspiration as I'm running, right? And make an unarmed strike then at the same time, thanks to Dazzling Footwork. Alas, we can't smite with it because we've used our bonus action, right? And I mean, for that matter, we've already cast a leveled spell on this round. But we've done nice things for our team regardless. I'm going to add a d8 to that hit for Charger. It's not worth spending a luck point on. We've only got 3 of those right now. But then on rounds 2 through 4, we're going to be making our one punch with our action, spending a luck point to give ourselves advantage, and then if we hit, which we should, with Bless and advantage, right, we'll pile on a d8 from Charger. Yeah, make sure to get a running start. A d8 from Fire Goliath, and what will be 6d6 fire damage from Searing Smite. 3d6 now, 3d6 later, right? Assuming that we're blowing our 3rd level spell slots to do so. If we average that damage over 4 rounds, then against enemies with a 10 armor class, we would on average do 35 damage per round. And against a 15 AC, it would be 33 DPR. And you know what? For just one single hit every round and an unarmed strike at that, that's not bad at all. And after round 1, we're doing 40 plus pretty consistently. It's respectable, kind of average compared to all other builds that I've done to date that were focused on sustained damage, right? Granted, we could only do this level of damage sustainably for one encounter before we have to start smiting at the 2nd level, but hey, you could be healing and controlling and inspiring more and punching less if you wanted, and get those spell slots to stretch a little bit. You're doing solid work with your one punch and everything else you bring to the table. So let's see where we go from here. At level 7, we would be a Bard 6, and as a Dance Bard, we get the Inspiring Movement feature, which is some nice utility. It says that when an enemy ends their turn within 5 feet of us, we can use our reaction and a Bardic Inspiration to move up to half our speed, even giving an ally within 30 feet the same benefit, with neither of you provoking opportunity attacks by doing this. This can be especially nice if you're hoping to get in position for a charge attack on your turn, as well as help keep you and your friends safe, right? And remember, we can make an unarmed strike when we use our Bardic Inspiration with our reaction too, so that would potentially let us punch and step away, which is awesome. Do I account for this when crunching numbers? I mean, I said I only wanted to be able to make one attack per turn, but not necessarily on my turn, right? I mean, if someone provokes an opportunity attack from us by moving away, are we going to just ignore them because, no, I've committed to a single attack per round and I will make no more? I don't think so. Of course you could, but to me the idea here, the concept, was to see what we could do damage-wise by committing to a single buffed attack. No extra attack, right? No bonus action attack and an attack action, etc. I don't necessarily have any compunction against making a reaction attack if the opportunity presents itself, regardless of whether it's an opportunity attack or because we're using this feature. And at the end of the day, it's not going to do a ton for our damage. So we might get this, half of the time? Is that too much to assume? We're a melee character, surely we're going to have an enemy next to us quite a lot at the end of their turn. And there's the occasional, actual opportunity attack as well. You might want to save your Bardic Inspirations, but what the heck. I'll assume a 50% chance to get a little slap as we step away for a little damage bump. But wait, there's more, because Dance Bards also get Tandem Footwork at level 6, which says that when we roll initiative, we can spend our inspiration and add that to our initiative roll for us and for all of our allies. That's freaking amazing. Did I say I was down on this bard? What is wrong with me? They've got all kinds of awesome stuff going on. Just not necessarily for damage. Hey, don't get mad at me for wanting everybody to be a Gish. That's just who I am. And hey, we're no slouch in the damage department either. But yeah, you should absolutely try to be using this every time you roll initiative. Fortunately, our inspirations reset on a short rest now. At level 8, we would be a Bard 7, and that means we get Counter Charm, which is good now, letting us use our reaction to give ourselves or an ally who failed a save against being charmed or frightened a reroll on that save with advantage. It's pretty sweet. I hope you didn't waste your reaction on an uncharged, unarmed strike. What a waste. But okay, we'd also get 4th level spells here, and while Dimension Door, Greater Invisibility, Polymorph, and more are all awesome, we are most excited for Fount of Moonlight. This cool little ditty is new in 5.5. It's available for bards and druids only. It requires our concentration and an action to cast, and then wreathes us in bright light, gives us resistance to radiant damage. No enemies use radiant damage, come on. How about necrotic? Anyways, it also says that if we take damage from someone within 60 feet, we can use our reaction, again with the reaction, so many reaction uses, to force that enemy to make a constitution save or be blinded until the end of our next turn. It's not terrible, but then, most importantly for us, it adds 2d6 damage to all of our melee attacks. Not just weapon attacks either, so this works for us. Would I really concentrate on this over Bless or Slow? I mean, maybe. Depends on my party, depends on what they need most from me. I'll assume that we're doing so just for fun, but feel free to go a different route if you want. We're just exploring what's possible, as always. At level 9, we would be a Bard 8, and we get another feat. And while there are plenty of dexterity half feats that I would be happy to have, Mage Slayer et al., I also really want to get my charisma up at some point, and maybe more than that, I want to protect my concentration. So let's just bump dexterity to 20 here to save time and still maximize our damage and our AC and initiative, but feel free to, again, bump charisma instead, or take a half charisma feat like Warcaster if you think that will benefit your team most. I'm working in a vacuum here and just have my eye on the spreadsheet. Don't forget, thanks to multiclassing, we do have a 5th level spell slot now. Half casters take, half their level rounded up when trying to figure out what your spell slots are. And this brings us to our next damage report. Since last check, we've given ourselves a 50% chance at a reaction smack, mostly an underpowered one, right? Other than the 2d6 that we're adding to all of our attacks from Fount of Moonlight. and we've capped our dexterity. Finally, we've gotten ourselves 4th and 1 5th level spell slot for smiting if we want. Remember, in 5.5, smites are no longer capped at 4th level, so you can just keep blowing those high level spell slots like the fool that you are if you really wanted to get more and more damage out of them. I guess we can add a Fire Giant D10 to all of our rounds now, even round 1, thanks to the proficiency bonus bump we get at 9, right? And advantage from another luck point too, for that matter. We've also added lots of really nice utility and support features while at it. Feels pretty great. But anyways, tactics are basically the same, just cast Fount of Moonlight on round 1 if you want, then make your punch by inspiring an ally with your bonus action, and proceed as usual from there, smiting on subsequent rounds. But assuming we're doing all of that, averaged over 4 rounds against enemies with a 10 armor class, we would do 62 damage per round. And against a 16 AC, it would be 55 DPR. And again, that's better than I expected, and almost double since last time. Nice work, Mr. One Punch Man, or Ms. One Punch Woman, as the case may be, or non-binary punch person. But you know what? Bottom half of tier 1 compared to other sustained damage builds that I've done to date. What in the crap is going on? I keep proving all of my whining wrong. But yeah, as is so often the case, we're blowing most of our best resources here in a single combat encounter. We're not doing a ton of healing or buffing if we're focused on damage like this, right? We may very well end up playing this differently in game if our party needs us to, and that's great. I'm curious to know if the damage will keep scaling. Are you? Good. Let's keep going. At level 10, we would be a Bard 9. That means we get another round of expertise, and go ahead and PYF here, but assuming that we're the party face, consider whatever social skills that you didn't take last time, I think. And then we get 5th level spells. And Animate Objects, Awaken, Dominate Person, Hold Monster, Greater Restoration, Raise Dead, our first Resurrect spell, by the way, Synaptic Static, and more are all worth considering. We're going to be blowing our 5th level spell slot on damage, so who cares? Just kidding. Pick your favorite. But then, people... Then, at level 11, Bard 10. And that means we get Magical Secrets, and this might be the most powerful class feature in the game. Seriously. I mean, Action Surge is great. Aura of Protection is amazing. Stunning Strike is not as good as a lot of you think. But Magical Secrets, my friends. 2 spells of 5th level or lower, and they can be Bard, Wizard, Cleric, or Druid spells. Whew. And now we get to potentially pick another one that we qualify for, right? Every time we level up. It is so good. So, which spells should we take here? I think the no-brainers are Wall of Force for awesome, like, force field control if we want it. And yeah, Conjure Minor Elementals, of course. The thing that makes the spell potentially problematic is that it scales so well and applies damage to every hit, right? But if we're only making 1 attack per turn, surely it's not that bad, is it? It takes an action to cast, it requires concentration, and then sends elemental spirits to emanate from us 15 feet in every direction, and then any attack that we make against creatures within that area does an extra 2d8 of damage, acid, cold, fire, or lightning. Again, with the fire, we kind of got a theme here if we want it. We choose the damage type when we attack, right? Which is kind of awesome. It lets us switch things up on the fly if need be. Also, that area, that emanation, is difficult terrain for our enemies. And you know what? That actually makes me wish that we would have gone Frost Giant instead of Fire. I'd give up 1 damage on average to slow the enemy 10 feet and then cut their move speed in half. They ain't going nowhere. Don't forget, our Bardic Inspiration die does go up to a D10 here as well. At level 12, we would be a Bard 11, and I'll admit, I was tempted to go Sorcerer here. We could get a little more mileage out of our shtick via Draconic Sorcerer to get some extra damage to our Searing Smite eventually at like level 17. It's not a lot of extra damage though, since we haven't been prioritizing Charisma, right? But Meta Magic would have been nice too. Transmute Spell to change the fire damage on Searing Smite if need be. Subtle Spell might let us get Conjure Minor Elementals going before combat starts, which would be great. Altogether, it would mean some nice quality of life improvements and a little bit more damage, but I don't know. We're a level 10 Bard, you guys. We've invested this much, and now we're about to have access to all Bard, Cleric, Druid, and even Wizard 6th level spells, and then 7th and 8th, right? I know I usually sacrifice everything at the altar of more damage, but maybe especially since I know This is never going to blow the doors off of anything damage-wise. Actually, we're doing a lot better than I thought we'd be. But regardless, I think of this character as sort of a damage-dealing support hybrid, right? And since the vast majority of our damage scaling is just coming from better spell slots from this point forward, with all of those spell options on the horizon, I don't know that I can, in good conscience, recommend multiclassing any further. So go Sorcerer here if you want. I think there are plenty of good reasons for doing so, but today, for this build, we're just gonna stay with Bard. And besides, I've used Draconic Sorcerer way too often for 5.5 builds, haven't I? Let's be honest. So, sticking with Bard then, we get 6th level spells here, and you know, thanks to Magical Secrets, you could have Chain Lightning, Mass Suggestion, Contingency, Hero's Feast, Heal, and more. Amazing. And yeah, remember that you can swap out one of your old Bard spells now for, say, the Shield spell, which I think I'd for sure do if I didn't take it as one of my original Magical Secrets. Then again, we do have a big traffic jam for our reaction, don't we? Anyways, it would be nice to have. But PYF otherwise. At level 13, we would be a Bard 12. That means we get another feat. And at this point, I am really concerned about my concentration. And to be fair, I should have been more concerned about it all along, but especially now, with so much of our potential damage coming from Conjure Minor Elementals, we really got to shore it up. And we arguably should have earlier, if not at level 4, then at level 8, right? But at this point, getting proficiency in Constitution saving throws is more valuable mathematically than having advantage on concentration checks. So I think I would probably take Resilient Constitution over Warcaster, though both would be nice. On the other hand, getting a +1 to Charisma via Warcaster would let us get to like 16 with another Charisma half feat next level, which would help all of our Bard things, as well as our face skills, and for us, even our armor class. So yeah, neither would be bad. And you could make a very strong argument that we should have been kind of trying to get that Charisma up earlier, maybe just leave Dexterity at 18 and be okay with that. But these are the options we should be considering. Don't forget, we do get a 7th level spell slot here thanks to multiclassing with Paladin, and this brings us to our next damage report. Since last check, the main bump to our potential damage has come from the Conjure Minor Elemental spell and more powerful spell slots to upcast it and our smites with. As a 7th level spell, Conjure Minor Elementals would do 5d8 damage every hit, and we could be smiting for 10 or 12d6 of fire damage if we used our 5th and 6th level slots to do so. Other than that, we've just picked up a lot of control, support, and utility potential and power. And I guess another use of our Fire Goliath and Lucky features. But against enemies now with a 10 armor class, if we average everything over 4 rounds, we would be doing 97 damage per round. And against 17 AC, it would be 88 DPR. Dang, almost hit that century mark, but this is still some solid scaling, about 50% or better compared to last check, and compared to other sustained DPR builds to date. I'm going to call it like bottom of tier 1, top of tier 2 maybe, so still really solid, shockingly. But maybe not, shockingly, right? We all know Conjure Minor Elementals is good, and maybe this is illustrative of the way something that adds this much damage to an attack isn't so bad when limited to a single attack per turn. Then again, Searing Smite is still doing more damage than anything here, and is burning up a big spell slot every time. So how sustainable this actually is will vary widely depending on your table, but I still love how high we can get with this concept if we commit to it, at least for 1 encounter per day. Let's see how it fares coming down the home stretch. At level 14, we would be a Bard 13. That means we get 7th level spells, and I mean, what do you want? Conjure Celestial is incredible healing and support, as we discussed last week, right? Draconic Transformation is fun if you want to stop punching and just start dragoning. Firestorm is some solid AoE. Force Cage is not as good as it used to be since it requires concentration and a lot of spare cash, but worth considering. Power Word Fortify gives so many temporary hit points. Reverse Gravity is my favorite control spell in the game for the sheer hilarity and power. And if you want to just be broken, Simulacrum will let you make a second One Punch Man if you've got the money, time, and snow for some odd reason. What is the lore behind the snow? Does anybody know? Anyways, have fun trying to pick just 1 or 2 of those. At level 15, we would be a Bard 14, and that means as a Dance Bard, we get Leading Evasion. This basically gives us evasion, a dexterity save to take half damage results now in no damage if we succeed, half if we fail, but it also lets us give evasion to an ally within 5 feet of us, making the same saving throw, right? That's nice. And your non-rogue, non-monk companions are going to love you for it if they're standing close at the right moment. But I don't know, as a level 14 feature, I think it could use a little love, maybe. Maybe let me give it to allies within 30 feet? But then, how is that related to dancing? I don't know, it's not bad. It just feels a wee bit undertuned to me as a subclass capstone. But I do love everything else that the subclass has going on, so I'm going to stop complaining now. At level 16, we would be a Bard 15, and that means we get 8th level spells, and I barely know which ones to talk about. Control Weather is a fun and massive 5-mile radius effect. Dominate Monster to just take control of any enemy. Illusory Dragon is a potent companion. Maze is iconic and awesome. No saving throw control, at least for 1 round, probably more, right? Tsunami can totally obliterate a battlefield. Enjoy being able to reshape the world. Don't forget, we do get our final inspiration bump now. It goes up to a D12. At level 17, we'd be a Bard 16, and we get another feat. I think our best options are Warcaster, if we haven't taken it yet, to give us advantage on our concentration checks primarily, and bump our Charisma by 1. Make sure you grab another Charisma half feat, like at level 19, right, if you keep going. Or if you took Resilient Constitution last time, you could go with another Constitution half feat here, like Chef or Crusher, Durable, Speedy. Or maybe you just bump your charisma to improve pretty much everything that you do as a bard, right? Honestly, we might have wanted to be prioritizing charisma since we got our dexterity to 18, right? Taking Warcaster at level 8 and then like another charisma half feat at level 12. But yeah, don't forget we do get a 9th level spell slot here thanks to multiclassing, and this brings us to our final damage report. Since last check, the only thing that we've really done to increase our damage with our 1 punch is to just scale our spell slots up. And we got a teeny bump from a better proficiency bonus and a better bardic inspiration too, I suppose. But beyond that, yeah, the real power has come from 7th and 8th level spells that just about any class has access to. But if we were silly little bards and burned those spell slots to upcast Conjure Minor Elementals and Searing Smite, averaged over 4 rounds against an enemy with a 10 armor class, we would do 124 DPR. And against an 18 AC, it would be 114 damage per round. And that is enough to keep us in about the same place compared to other DPR builds to date. Bottom of tier 1, top of tier 2. And yeah, I'm pretty shocked. So let's get into the final thoughts, shall we? The tier score for this build, if you take the damage they do against all the armor classes we calculate for at each of the 4 damage reports and just average it into one big number, we end up with a 68. And that puts us just barely under the full Barbarian Martial build from that Martials versus Casters video I did a couple of weeks ago. But we are doing it all with just 1 attack per turn. And not any attack, a freaking unarmed strike. Asterisk. This damage good for only 1 combat encounter per day. Please see DM for details. Because yeah, there's one of the caveats, right? Blowing all of those spell slots. At tables where you have more combat encounters on the regular between long rests, these numbers will be significantly lower, and I am 100% okay with that. Now, I don't think because our damage is pretty respectable that it necessarily disproves the point that I was making at the beginning, that generally speaking, the ways to get the most damage on a build in D&D is to stack on-hit damage and then stack number of attacks, right? And this is a very specific build that we've done, designed to try and hit as hard as possible with 1 single hit, taking an arguably overpowered spell and blowing everything on smites. It wouldn't work very well against fire-resistant or especially immune enemies. So you'd really want to consider Elemental Adept, or maybe going Sorcerer, like we discussed. If I were playing this character in game, yeah, I might do what I've kind of been hinting at, right? Get our Dexterity to 18 and then go Warcaster and Elemental Adept. But if this build is the exception that proves the rule, then yeah, I'm here to say I'd still love to have more options to build for damage where you don't necessarily have to get multiple attacks per turn to keep up. And while sure, you could only do this level of damage for 1 combat encounter per day, and that can potentially really limit its potency. You know how I would really love to play this character in game? I'm like imagining a Karlach-like character, right? From Baldur's Gate 3, take a drink, it's been a minute. Where you've got this fire burning inside you that you're trying to control or manage, but that sometimes just has to be let out. And during most combat encounters, you can kind of contain it, and you're probably concentrating on Bless, or maybe Aura of Vitality, you're buffing, you're healing, you're throwing out inspirations. Maybe once in a while, you cure wounds for a big heal with your action, and then bonus action inspiration, and do a little unarmed strike against an enemy. Maybe once in a while, you have a big punch against a target, and you pile on a smite, especially if you crit. And the rest of your party's like, whoa, they know that there's a dormant power inside you that if it gets released, everyone better watch out, right? And then just once in a while, maybe for a really important fight, maybe if an ally goes down, or you fight against like the mini boss who's important in your character's backstory or something, you just go ballistic. The fire within you manifest as like conjure elementals or fount of moonlight, and it's just a huge smite and spell infused wallop as you're one-shotting weaker foes and crippling even bosses with your one huge punch every turn, just leaving craters and ash where your enemies once stood. That would be awesome. So much fun. So that's the build for the week. I hope you were as pleasantly surprised by it as I was. Oh, I promised a non-magic version of the build, right? I think the core for like a more martial focused one punch man is something like this. 3 levels of Berserker Barbarian for rage and easy advantage and extra frenzy damage on our one hit. 3 levels of Mercy Monk for improved unarmed strike capability and extra damage from Hand of Harm. But yeah, you would be like a strength-based monk here. From there, I think I'd want to get 3 levels of Grave Cleric if you can play with the old Grave Cleric and not the version that went to Unearthed Arcana back in May of 2025. Who knows if that version will ever get released or what the final version is going to look like, but with Grave Cleric, we could path to the grave with our action and then make our one unarmed strike as a bonus action thanks to Monk, right, martial arts, infused with rage and frenzy and Hand of Harm and our strength score, but all of our damage would be doubled thanks to Path of the Grave. After that, I'd probably go to Monk 5 for a bigger unarmed strike and Stunning Strike. It feels appropriate that like your one big punch would totally stun your enemy, I think. And from there, I'd maybe consider Battlemaster Fighter to pile on some superiority die to our one hit. I actually thought about using Grave Cleric for this build today. For the record, I wrote my outline with that included, but it ended up not jiving with our action economy. We could use our action for Path to the Grave and then our bonus action for an unarmed strike when we were giving someone Bardic Inspiration, but that would prohibit us from smiting. And even doubling the damage on the attack, including if we had Conjure Minor Elementals going, it wasn't going to keep up with non-double damage, but that included a smite, right? So yeah, maybe I'll build that martial one-hit wonder, one-punch wonder someday. I didn't do a ton of number crunching on it, but it was outpacing this build at early levels, at least for the bit of number crunching I was doing. And then it started to fall behind once we hit late tier 2 and beyond. But anyways, I love you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for all that you do for me and for the channel. I hope you have a fantastic day and a really great week. And if you don't, please don't give up. Hang in there, okay? Hang in there. You can do it. I hope that you'll do good and be kind, and that I see you again very soon. But until then, take care. Bye. Well, I heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do ya? It goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. All right. favorite rendition of that Leonard Cohen classic. Surely not Leonard Cohen. I think Rufus Wainwright might be my favorite. I know Shrek, but still, it was so good. There are others that I really like. Katie Lang was great. Jeff Buckley. Anyways, let me know. And sorry if you were hoping that I was going to do like Hit Me Baby One More Time or Eminem. I mean, I could do Vanilla Ice if I got to do like a white rapper, but you know, he's not really a rapper and I don't have that skill set. So love or hate Eminem, I think he's pretty legit. And I could not do that song justice. So hey everybody. So here at D4 every week I take a deep dive into my favorite character been doing this for 5 years. Hey. Okay. I have got to get some WD-40 on this chair. Driving me crazy. I literally just coated the entire chair in WD-40. Doesn't matter.